Police investigating a horrific car accident, Clearwater, Florida, involving pro wrestler Hulk Hogan's son, 17-year-old Nick Hogan, released from the hospital today. Hogan was driving at a high rate of speed before the crash, and both he and a passenger had to be airlifted to a nearby hospital. The passenger remains in critical condition. John Graziano, the passenger, how badly injured is he?
Well, his grandmother has just spoken out to the Tampa Tribune, and she says that it's not looking good, and they think that he might have brain damage because he's pretty incoherent right now.
Hulk Hogan's son Nick entered the spotlight when he appeared on Hogan's reality show Hogan Knows Best, entering the public scene in a big way. Sadly, Nick became involved in a firestorm of controversy when he was involved in a serious auto accident and incarcerated for felony reckless driving. However, what happened to Nick Hogan? The reality show Hogan Knows Best put Hulk Hogan's family into the public spotlight as the VH1 show aired for 4 seasons from 2005 to 2007 and featured the antics of Hulk Hogan, wife Linda, daughter Brooke, and son Nick. However, on the 26th August 2007, the then 17-year-old Nick was involved in an automobile accident that made for publicity nobody wanted. While the details of the night are still disputed, Nick Hogan was driving a Toyota Supra when his vehicle crashed, injuring him and severely injuring his passenger, John Graziano. Nick Hogan was accused of racing his car and ultimately charged with reckless driving involving a serious bodily injury, use of a motor vehicle in the commission of a felony, operating a motor vehicle with a blood alcohol of 0.02% or higher, and illegal window tint. Ultimately, Nick took a no-contest plea and was sentenced to 8 months in jail, 5 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and a suspension of his license for 3 years. Hogan was released after 5 months due to good behavior, and his probation ended early as well. Following his release, Linda Hogan released a statement which included the following message. Nick went into prison as a juvenile and has experienced something that will mold and affect him for the rest of his adult life. His focus is to make a positive difference in this world, media-free. Since his future actions will speak louder than any words, there is no need to speak to the media at this time. John Graziano, Nick's friend and passenger, was gravely injured. Graziano was not wearing a seatbelt and suffered life-altering injuries, including severe brain damage and eye injuries. Graziano's family eventually sued the Hogan family, settling the case in 2010 for $5 million. Like many lawsuits, figures differ, but according to a Miami Herald article, Deborah Graziano settled a civil lawsuit against the Belayers in 2010, receiving $1.5 million after legal fees to help her care for her son. While John Graziano suffered in the crash, Nick Hogan has to deal with the guilt and trauma ever since that night of 26 August 2007. In a 2017 interview, Hogan revealed, "It's so hard to move on every day and be positive when there's something that's so horribly devastating. There are days when I can't even get out of bed. I pray every day that I'll be able to deal with it. It's something that I carry with me every day." It's been over 12 years since the horrendous night, and Nick's life has taken some interesting twists and turns. Hulk Hogan fans undoubtedly recall the scandal when Gawker leaked a tape of Hulkster and his friend at the time's wife, but they may not know that Nick Hogan fell victim to a similar hack. In 2014, the International Business Times reported that Nick had become the first known male victim of what the media dubbed the Fappening and Celebgate. As noted in the International Business Times, after breaking into more than 100 female celebrities' iCloud accounts, hackers got into Hogan's iCloud and stole naked photographs of him and ex-girlfriends, as well as a couple of not safe for work or NSFW pictures of his mother, TMZ reported. The photos are reportedly voluminous and graphic, and they go back to the former Hogan Knows Best star's high school days. When Hogan and his high school friends took the images, they were underage, which would make the pictures child pornography in some jurisdictions. Hogan defended keeping the pictures and told TMZ he has kept almost everything from his life that has been either photographed or recorded. Hogan also told TMZ some of the pictures weren't his, such as his penis photos. The former reality television star said 2 shots of his mother, Linda Hogan, weren't from his iCloud account at all. At one point, it looked like Nick might follow his famous father's career, becoming a second-generation superstar. However, Nick kept suffering the same physical injury. In 2013, he told the Chicago Tribune he kept dislocating his left shoulder, according to the 22-year-old Hogan. He said it happened so often that it would require surgery for him to go on. Thankfully for Nick, he had already discovered a passion to start a career with. Although Nick Hogan hasn't been involved in the ring, he has always been vocal about speaking out on behalf of his famous dad Hulk Hogan. In 2018, Nick spoke with TMZ several times about his dad's return to wrestling, such as Hogan's trip to that year's Saudi Arabia for Crown Jewel and the Saudi fans' enthusiastic response to Hulkamania. In early 2018, Nick Hogan was taken to an emergency room after he fainted. Thankfully, it was nothing serious. According to website The Blast, he just overdid it with work, one source said, adding Nick had just been training so hard and didn't eat enough that day. We're told Nick's been laser focused on his new job. Our source said he's been working very hard in his career, which has taken him to Dash Radio doing work on the electric music operation. The Hulkster spoke about the incident on Twitter over the weekend, apologizing to his fans for going silent last week, writing, "Sorry about last week with the shoutouts, but with my son in the ER for 12 hours and the ongoing drama, family is first." Nick quickly bounced back from the incident. As you may recall, Nick's sister Brooke began pursuing a singing career while Hogan Knows Best was being taped. During this time, brother Nick got bit by the music bug, but not as a singer. It began when his sister and Hogan Knows Best co-star Brooke Hogan, who found success as a pop singer, brought him turntables for Christmas. He said he paid a DJ $400 to teach him how to use the turntables and would practice in his spare time. When it came time to choosing between wrestling and DJing, he decided to postpone his wrestling career so he could give DJing a go full-time, much to the relief of his dad. In May 2019, Nick posted on Instagram about who inspired him to become a DJ. Fun fact, I became a DJ because I met DJ AM in a booth at a Grammy after party in 03 or 04 that he was playing, and I was fascinated ever since. Nick struggled to find success though, as he told the Chicago Tribune's Louis Gomez, "Being me was kind of a double-edged sword when it came to DJing. It's a blessing that I have a father whose last name is famous enough that people want to book me at a club. At the same time, the clubs that wanted to hire me weren't the best clubs for me to play at. It was a novelty for them, but it wasn't a novelty for me. The places I wanted to play wouldn't hire me because they didn't want to be associated with the novelty. Oh man, here's another celeb DJ. A lot of club owners wouldn't give me the time of day a few years ago, but now they've seen that I stuck with it." Nick eventually found his way, recording an EDM song in 2014 and continuing to DJ at a number of clubs. Some digital detecting reveals that DJ Nick recently performed at Avalon Hollywood, and looking at his social media, it's clear he keeps busy on the club scene. Hogan's work can also be found on SoundCloud. As for Nick's personal life, he was dating fitness model Tana Lee for several years, but he appears to have moved on. Nick Hogan seems to be in a good place in his life, having moved on from the terrible car crash he was involved in and built up his career as a DJ. But while Nick's life has seemed to have turned out well, the Graziano family hasn't been as fortunate. Tragedy has followed the family even after John's accident and catastrophic injuries. John's parents Ed and Deborah divorced after their son's accident, but things turned out murderous when Ed allegedly tried to buy the services of a hitman to off Deborah. Thankfully for Deborah, the person Ed thought was a hitman was actually an undercover cop, the police having learned of his plan to arrange for his wife's demise. Rumor has it that Ed also wanted Linda Hogan murdered. While Ed Graziano denied the charges, the Miami Herald revealed he later pleaded no contest to the charges and was sentenced to 10 years in prison, followed by 10 years of probation. Perhaps longing to return to prison, Graziano allegedly violated his probation last April after Deborah claims he called her, violating one of his conditions of his probation. While the Grazianos were still coping with the death of son John, tragedy struck the family again in 2012 when John's 21-year-old brother Michael was involved in a motor vehicle accident when the impaired driver he was riding with crashed into the back of a dump truck. But there you have it, guys, what the son of the immortal one is up to nowadays, and why he didn't follow the footsteps of his father. Is there anybody else you'd like us to find out about? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.